Welcome back to The World Over. President Trump made waves this week by issuing an executive tweet barring transgender persons from the military. A bill sanctioning Iran, Russia, and North Korea overwhelmingly passed the House, and the fight against ISIS enters a new phase after success in Mosul. Here with insider analysis is terrorism expert and deputy assistant to the president, Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Welcome back.
Great to be back, Raymond.
I want to start with this House package of sanctions against North Korea, Iran, and Russia. It gives the House the ability, and I believe it applies to all these sanctions, but particularly to Russian sanctions, to override and veto the president's decisions in this area. How's the White House reacting?
Well, we've been in discussions with the Hill on various sanctions packages, including the Russian one, and especially after the requirement to recertify the Iran deal, the JCPOA. Right. We actually levied more than a dozen new sanctions on that regime because of what they've been doing. At the end of the day, we have division of power. We have checks and balances. If the Hill wants to share more responsibility, we like to hear that. The fact is, what is the actual effect on those nations? We've seen again and again and again that they simply continue to escalate. North Korea, now Iran, latest news, right, is another escalation. At the end of the day, we just have to remember one thing, Raymond. The ultimate responsibility for the safety of this nation lies in the hands of the Commander-in-Chief. Today, that is Donald J. Trump, and he takes that responsibility very seriously.
Iran is already saying, and they are launching long-range missile tests, as we see North Korea doing the same. Right. Successful tests in many cases, as a show of force, no doubt. Iran is saying, the president, that they will reinforce their whole defense system without paying much attention to what others say if this sanction package goes through. Concern you?
These are different actors, so let's disaggregate them for a second. Okay, let's disaggregate Russia from Iran from North Korea. North Korea was facilitated by the Clinton White House on its current trajectory when it comes to flagrant abuse of weapons of mass destruction requirements, ballistic missile testing. This is a pattern we've seen escalate. We've said enough is enough. At the fringes of the G20, the president sat down with both the heads of state of Japan and South Korea, said that we wish to take this back to the UN Security Council. Not only that, the president had a separate discussion with Xi Jinping after the G20. At the moment, Raymond, we are exerting what we call a program of peaceful pressure with regards to North Korea, but the president takes none of his options off the table. With regards to Iran, we have a fundamental issue with what we inherited from the Obama White House. The JCPOA Iran deal is fundamentally flawed. It is a bad deal, not only because of its internally incredibly weak stipulations, that it doesn't stop nuclear acquisition, it delays it. Right. And on top of that, the biggest flaw, Mike Flynn, our prior National Security Advisor, was absolutely right. We've maintained the policy. It disconnects Iran's nuclear issue from everything else it is doing in the region to destabilize the Middle East and elsewhere. So we want to deal with Iran holistically.
I see. Do you think the president will veto that sanctions package?
I don't like to talk for the president, and we don't like to give our game book away in advance. We shall see.
Okay, time will tell. Let's talk about Mosul. ISIS has been repelled by and large out of Mosul. How do you hold ground in Syria, in Iraq, to keep them from returning to those safe havens?
Right. So the difference in our approach to this, it's very important that your viewers understand. Not only is this administration very different from the Obama administration that helped, in fact, with their decisions, perhaps inadvertently, to destabilize the whole region, this is nevertheless not a reheat of the Bush administration. So we are not interested in sending large amounts of troops into places like the Middle East to fight other people's wars for themselves. The president sees that as fundamentally not in the interests of the United States and un-American. He's not interested in occupying other people's countries. What we wish to do, whether it's Mosul, whether it's Raqqa or other regions, is first stop the bloodshed. In Syria, that is our project, to stop the bloodshed. Almost 500,000 people murdered in Syria alone in 6 years. And then our policy is help others fight their own wars for themselves. So Mosul is not an American victory. We're not flying the American flag over Mosul. That's an Iraqi victory. That's a victory for local actors. We wish to help local actors hold that territory.
Your take on what we're seeing in the Philippines, in Marawi, you have a conflagration of ISIS-linked militants who've come in. Yep. They are amazingly resilient to the tough efforts of this administration in the Philippines to repel them. And the local forces have said, we're astounded that they have the armaments and the preparations that were in place here. Are you concerned that ISIS is reverting to its original pattern, which is a player that doesn't restrict itself to one region, but is a global entity that can move and quickly reappropriate space and forces as needed?
Yeah, this is very important that you mentioned this. So
this is getting almost no coverage, by the way.
Yeah.
The conflagration of ISIS in the east.
Think about the last big ISIS meeting President Obama had. The NCTC, this was reported in the mainstream media, gave the briefing on this meeting of where is ISIS today. And they disclosed, this is in the open domain, in the public domain, ISIS has 18, quote, fully functional affiliates in the world. Not just people who say, ISIS, I like you, and I'm loyal to you. No, fully functional affiliates. ISIS, this is stunning. ISIS, you can watch the documentary on, I think it's Frontline, has kindergartens and schools being run in Afghanistan. Afghanistan isn't even the Middle East. So what the president is doing, he did this in Ohio 2 days ago in the Youngstown speech. He's reasserting this is a global phenomena. This isn't regional. This is an ideological phenomena. And when he says radical Islamic terrorism, it doesn't matter whether it's the Philippines, doesn't matter whether it's Algeria, or it doesn't matter whether it's the streets of San Bernardino. This is a global threat to all that we hold dear.
We've sent surveillance planes into the Philippines to help in that fight. Is that the extent of American involvement, or do you expect to see more support?
We go back, this administration goes back to the motto, the original motto of the Green Berets. Remember Kennedy, who created the Green Beret recognition, and it's a very important one, by, with, and through. We're not going to fight other people's wars for themselves, as I said, but we will help others by, through, with those forces. Best examples historically, Colombia and El Salvador. Remember, the then Congress was so against President Reagan, they capped our involvement at 55 soldiers in El Salvador. Not 55,000, Raymond.
55.
55, and yet it still worked. That's the model we like.
Okay. I want to move on to the big foreign policy news of the week that got so much coverage, but a lot of misunderstanding out there. The presidential tweet on Wednesday that said this: after consultation with my generals and military experts, please be advised that the United States government will not accept or allow transgender individuals to serve in any capacity in the U.S. military. Our military must be focused on decisive and overwhelming victory and cannot be burdened with tremendous medical costs and disruption that transgender in the military would entail. Thank you. Why via tweet? A lot of people on the Hill are going, wait a minute, this is a piece of foreign policy news. It's a major announcement. It's policy. Why is the president announcing it on his Twitter handle and not issuing something formally or via General Mattis at the Defense Department or through someone else?
You know why? Because the most important people for the president are the American citizenry, is the American electorate. We will deal with the process. It will go through the requisite channels. It will go through the Secretary of Defense, down to the units, down to the divisions. But this is the President of the United States. So he communicates directly with the American people. I know a lot of people don't like that, but that's who he is. And I will never counsel him not to do so, because in fact that's how he became president.
Everyone knew this was coming. I mean, Mattis.
I was in the Oval Office when he made the decision. This wasn't some kind of out of the blue. This is something the president has believed in. He didn't catch anybody by surprise. He understands our military is not a petri dish. The last administration treated it as if it's some kind of social engineering petri dish. Absolutely not. They are the people who put on the cloth of the Republic to protect us, and we're not going to experiment on them.
Interesting you say that. Former Defense Secretary Ash Carter, in a statement, said to choose service members on other grounds than military qualifications is social policy and has no place in our military. You would say what to him?
I'd say, Ash Carter, you're not the Secretary of Defense anymore. And secondly, I would say something very, very serious. The cliche is our military is there to kill people and blow stuff up. They are not. We are proud of our citizen military, but they are not a reflection of society. People think, they make this argument, well, it has to reflect society. Absolutely not. These are the people that go into the most dangerous places of the world, like Syria, like Iraq, risking their lives. Does your grandmother, are we expecting your grandmother to do that, or your nephews or nieces? It's not a reflection of society. These are the people who have the toughest job in the world, and as such, we're not going to experiment and use them as some kind of social engineering fantasy for somebody for ideological reasons.
Now, the Rand Corporation, who did the study before this policy was approved during the Obama administration, now we should say, the Rand Corporation is not like the CBO. The Rand Corporation is an outside group that was paid good American money to come out with a study. So,
I used to work at Rand. I know it very well.
Then you know all about it. They claim that there are 6,000 to 15,000 transgendered persons in the fighting force today in the United States. Do you believe that figure?
I think that's probably an exaggeration. But even if it is, it's irrelevant. I mean, the point is that we do not see the military as a meal ticket to elective surgery.
Is it concern about the hormones?
Combat effectiveness.
Okay.
Combat effectiveness.
Battle ready.
Yeah, battle ready, as the president said. Let me tell you something else. This isn't about being mean-spirited. It's about having our military being capable of doing the job we expect them to do. There are studies, serious medical studies, that the transgender population has a 40% attempted suicide rate. Now think about that for a second. If that's what you want to bring into a cohesive unit that's supposed to be in the toughest potential environments man can imagine, it's a tragedy is what it is. And we should help those people. But to try and force a political, ideological agenda on the most important element of the U.S. government that keeps us safe, that's unconscionable.
Do you think the idea was, in the same way that the military holds out paying for college for kids who sign up, was it an appeal to transgender LGBT individuals saying, we will pay for your elective surgery if you sign up? Is that how it was imagined?
I wish it were. I think that's the charitable version of events.
Okay.
I think it's much more than that. I think we saw in the last 8 years all over federal government this idea, this belief that man can be engineered, that man isn't made in the image of God, and there's some eternal truths, such as biology is not something you can engineer. And they said, no, we have our pet project, and who better? We've got a captive audience in the military. We can use this to ramrod our ideology onto the broader population. I think it was ideological, Raymond. I really do.
Well, the Pentagon said in June, just in June, only 250 members of the military have come forward and identified themselves as transgender.
Right.
So it's not thousands as reported by Raymond.
We don't allow
projected
the outlier to dictate the community. We assist, we advise, we can help, but this isn't, think about it, the military is not a reflection of society. It has its own military code. It has the UCMJ, it has a whole different court system. You actually lose some of your constitutional rights when you become a member of the armed forces. The Hatch Act, for example, on political activity. This isn't just a mini version of America. These are people who have to kill to protect us. That's a very special mission.
Are you amazed that Joni Ernst, Orrin Hatch, who you just mentioned, from Utah, that they are opposed to President Trump's policy?
My mind is boggled. I don't understand. I truly don't understand. Unless there's some local political advantage for them doing so, I truly don't understand.
Okay, final question. We've been getting a lot of attention in the media, and many of my peers have been focused on Russian intrusion into American affairs, hacking email accounts. Yet, just this week, here at Dulles Airport, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, IT guy, the right-hand man in the DNC, taking care of all these accounts, access to Debbie Wasserman's email and many other members of Congress. He apparently crushed the hard drives. The FBI found bashed hard drives. His name is Imran Awan. He was arrested on his way to Pakistan here at Dulles Airport the other day. Tell me about him, and why do you think we're not hearing more about this case?
Why aren't we hearing more about this case? Because we're not hearing about everything else that really matters. Let me, channel my colleague Kellyanne. Kellyanne says, this isn't just a collusion delusion. It's become Russian concussion. I mean, they'll talk about stuff that has absolutely no substance to it, our administration, and ignore everything else, whether it's this story, whether it's the fact that we have had 125 leaks from this administration in 125 days. That's sevenfold over the Bush administration, the Obama administration. Congress last week said 65 of those leaks were of national security import. Why is that not front and center on CNN or the New York Times? It isn't. Why isn't the fact that the DNC sent an operative to the embassy of Ukraine, not to collect simply dirt on our campaign, but to coordinate attacks against our campaign? Now, wouldn't you think that's a front page story, just like this one? I would if I were a journalist.
Yeah, these are big stories, and they're not getting enough attention. I mean, this guy, this Awan character, and his siblings and family made millions of dollars off of this job, and it seems they were going back and forth to Pakistan. In fact, the wife is already there, went ahead of him. He was going to meet her. Whether they were ever coming back, we don't know, but it bears looking into. Before I let you go, stay tuned. New director of communications for the White House, Anthony Scaramucci, came in. Within days, he was saying he's going to plug up the leaks. He's going to fire whoever needs firing. He sent out a tweet critical of the chief of staff, Reince Priebus, this week that has sent shockwaves through D.C. Is it good to be airing these inter-family disputes and differences in public? Shouldn't this happen in private?
Look, you can ask Anthony. I'll connect you, and he should come here. I'm very happy he's on board. He is the new broom that's going to sweep in and sort things out. I don't think leaks in the comms shop are the serious issue. We had somebody that was dealt with. I think the broader leaks across the interagency is something that still has to be dealt with. But look, he's said from the get-go, nobody works for me. We work together. And that includes the chief of staff. So, he wants to set things right with a clean slate. Hopefully after these few days, we'll come to some kind of accord and move out. Because the bottom line is, he talks like the president. He understands the president, and he knows how to connect with the people that elected the president. Sean, Steve, everybody else knows that.
Sebastian Gorka.